Oh, g'day. Welcome to another Ridgepointe rail video. This one I've been harassed by an arson requested to make this video, and it's about programming DCC Locos. So, how do I start? Oh, let's get a DR5000, it's a good place to start. So the DR5000 has a dedicated program track that you could connect to here, and that's your main track. You have insulated fish plates in between here and here, and when you've got the program track connected to here, when you're not programming, there's a relay that sends mains power to that. So when you're not programming, it's all main. You can drive over onto that, but when you program, only that's the program track because that's connected. When you program, the relay turns off, mains power is taken away. When you're programming, only this sees the locomotive, and that's my program track there. So only this then sees the locomotive. You can program. When you finish programming, it will turn back into mains automatically. The relay will turn back on. It will become a main again, and then you can take your loco and then drive away on the main. So that means that you can have a spur or a siding that must be insulated. You drive over here, connect your program track up to this spur or siding. Could even be part of the main if you wanted to. But you drive onto here, do your programming, and then drive off. So, oh, excuse me. So to do that, you would need a DR5000, and the program track output is there, and then it's insulated from the main track. And there, if you don't insulate it, you will give yourself a nightmare, and none of this will be successful and simple. So what we're going to look at is just a couple of things. We're going to program a long address or a short address, whichever you like, just to get it off number 3 so that you can run with your friends. We're also going to slow down the acceleration when you take off so it becomes more prototypical, and when you slow your loco down, we want it to slow down gradually, again more prototypical, so things that just become smoother. So you just need to drop a couple of instructions into the decoder, which is a lot simpler than what you might think. So we have a primary address is here, that's default 3. This CV1 only takes a value from short addresses, and if it's going to be a long address and up to 4 digits, up to 9999, it then drops CV1 and looks at CV 17 and 18, and 17 and 18 will then make up your long address, and CV29, which is it's a little setting in the decoder that says, hey, use the short address or use the long address, or use 14 speed steps or use 128 speed steps, that kind of thing. So what we'll just do is we'll just jump into running. And you see you've got 2 apps here. One's a blue background with a red train. It's called Loco Z21, which oddly has the name of Z21 Mobile from the App Store. So Z21, I'm just going to power up my program track. Z21 from the Play Store runs on just about every version of Android and every version of Apple. The newer one, the black one, which is about, one only runs on Android 4.3 and above, and it's considerably bigger and takes up a lot more RAM, so 2 gig of RAM is recommended for that one. Older devices stick with that one, but this is the most reliable for programming anyway, so that's fine. We'll just check I'm connected. So I go to my settings, Wi-Fi connections. I'm connected to my DR5000 via Wi-Fi. The password by default, of course, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you forget that, we'll cut your thumbs off and get you to count. The configuration for this one is quite simple as well. So we go into settings, we go into app settings. The Z21, if you're using a Z21 system, then this will read 192.168.0.111, but if you're using a DR5000, it's 192.168.16.254. Once you've saved it there, you can always see it. So if someone else joins your layout, you can always read that from this screen and then have it play back to them. So to check you're connected, just go to the control panel up the top and you'll have a little tick on the Wi-Fi icon, and that means you're connected. So this is the splash screen from that, and the real simple thing about this is we want to go into programming. So let's go to programming. If you want to program your Loco address, so I'm connected to the program track, remember. Okay, tap on here and you can enter your address and hit program. It's grayed out until I actually put in a value. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit read. Now it reads CV3, CV17, CV18 and CV29. All of those things all to get a value, and that's number 4769. So if I wanted to change that number to 444, I just hit program. In program it just has to write, it doesn't read, so it's done much quicker. But I'm going to change it back to 4769 and hit program. There we go. The reason why the sound doesn't run now is because my main track power is turned off, but the program track still works, so that relay still flicks off even though the power track isn't there, and your program track will see power all the time, as long as you're programming, whether your red light or green light is on your DR5000. So that's a give it an address. If you want to give it a short address, if it happens to be Loco 22, just call it 22. It won't matter one bit. It'll just, as long as you know it's 22. A lot of Locos now have 5 numbers or whatever it is. Generally, if you stick with the last 4, or you could go the first 2 and the last 2, whatever it is, just make it uniform. But if you've got a program track hooked up to your, wherever it is, it could be on your benchtop, and have a spare DR5000, it could be connected to your program track. Just drive it onto your program track and hit read, and it'll just read it for you and tell you what that number is. But either way, if you're going to do it, just keep it uniform. So really good idea just to keep it all smooth. There we go, it's come back with my address. So okay, so that's programming a Loco address on a DR5000. That's pretty cool. The next one we're going to do is change the acceleration rate. So that's CV number 3, and we're going to put a value in there. Because they're bits and computers, they all works in blocks of 8. So they're either on or off, or 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256. Whatever it is. So if I go to the programming track now, all my powers come on. If I go to my program track now, CV number 3 allows me to increase the time it reaches to set a speed. So if I go straight up to 50% noise, this Loco can jump straight up 50% power. Doesn't look very prototypical. So I'm going to put a delay in there, and it might be 50. I just hit 50, and depending on different decoders have different things. Some decoders, like a Hornby decoder, you put in 5 and it means 5 seconds, until it's reached your desired speed. So there's no uniformity. You could have it to 75% speed instantly, it'll take 5 seconds to get there, or you can have it 25% speed instantly, it'll take 5 seconds to get there. So the Hornby chip doesn't do it very well, I don't think. Some people use Hornby, some people don't. I probably prefer not to. This is a Bachmann. The Bachmann, this is a sound, the simple sound one that they do. There's no startup sounds, it just runs. But if I put in a CV value of 50 here, the engine notches up and then it takes off, whereas otherwise before it'd just take off and then the sound would try and catch up. So moving on to the deceleration rate, so that's how long it takes for it to slow down. That's CV number 4. I like to have that at half of what it speeds up at, so it's set to number 25, and I just read that. But if I wanted to change it to 30, I just put 30 and hit program, and that's CV. That's your deceleration set. So you can play around with that. You won't break it. It is a variable. It's meant to be adjusted. So you adjust it to whatever makes you happy. However, if that train is always carrying a really long load, then have it make it a high number, so it takes a long time to speed up and a long time to slow down. If you're just going to run the train without the locomotive without pulling any rake of carriages or any containers or coalies or whatever, and it's just going to zoom around, then you might want to have it really low. If you do have a value set there though, it'll just take a little bit longer to set down and then take off backwards, which of course will then help protect your gears and make everything smoother, and basically you'll have a longer lasting loco because we'll give the gear set a bit of mechanical sympathy by not jarring it. It'll just slow down slowly and then speed up again slowly. Okay. CV5 is a good one. CV5, you can set your maximum volts to the motor. So I think I've got about 13.8 track volts here, and then it runs through a bridge rectifier, so the motor would probably only see around 12, roughly it'd be 12.4 or something. At 12.4, this might do the equivalent of 160 miles an hour, which might be a little bit fast. So let's have a look at CV5. If I go over here and play CV5 and I just read it, so I've set that to 100. So 100, I'm running at about 40% power, being 256 bits is 256 is my normal choice. This is 100. I got 50, 100, 150, 200, 250. So 100 is about 40%. So that means at about 40% speed, this will run between like 50 to 60 miles an hour top speed, which is about right. But what it allows me to do is, because I've lowered the volts to it, I now get to play with the entire throttle, sliding it up and down, whereas if it was set to 100% power, I might only be able to use just 1/3 of my throttle. There's my throttle's this big on the screen. I might only be able to go up to there to get 60 miles an hour. But if I tell it, hey, you know, don't do that, let's only send it like 40% of the power that the motor would do, and that's the speed I want, then I can actually go all the way up, and that's 60 miles an hour, that's 50, and then all my shunting speed, I get a lot more control out of it. So do play around with CV5, it's a right cracker. The CV6 is a mid voltage. So with that, if you set a number below halfway, so I've got 100 here, if I set 40 to CV number 6, I'm just going to read that for a minute. If I set 40, it's got a 0 set there at the moment, so I'm going to put 40 there. 40, and hit program. That means that the first 40% of my power going on here goes at 50% on my throttle, which means that I get better low speed control. So if you've got a value of 160 there, a value of say 70 in CV6 would be really nice, and then you'll have better low speed control and be able to back up to your load a lot smoother, have a lot more control going through at approximately say 25 miles an hour, 40 k's through a set of points. So it's pretty complex how that all works, but if you want it shunting, just go a little bit lower than half of CV5, and if you want high speed control, then go a little bit more than half of CV5. And sorry, yes, for shunting we need a little bit less. Yes, I'll get that right. Although shunting's a little bit less. Okay. I didn't cover CV number 2. CV number 2 is volt start. So if you just slowly creep up your throttle, and if you go to speed step 1 or speed step 2 on your throttle and you're not seeing any movement, that means that the decoder is still getting the instruction to pass power through, but the motor isn't reacting to that power. If the motor's not reacting to that amount of power, we need to tell this decoder to let more power through at speed step 1, and that's exactly how you do that. So if I go to speed step number 2 and hit read, CV number 2, and hit read, okay, I've got a value of 0. Let's say if I move this up and it didn't start to move, I just need to say, hey look, give it a little bit of power, will you? I'm going to set that 20 there, and I'll just hit program. 20 might be enough, 20 might be too much, but if you put in 20, see if it moves on number 1. If it moves and goes too fast, then drop it down to 15. If it doesn't move, then take it up to 25. I've seen old blue box Therns that have been DCC fitted. They'll actually need a value of 60 or 70 or 80, I've seen in CV number 2, just so that when you just move the throttle a little bit, it'll just start to move. Otherwise you could be halfway up the throttle before your train starts to move, and then you lose all that beautiful control that the digital system will afford you. So just to recap, this is the older app, and you just go into programming, program Loco address, it's follow your nose. There you go, active address. You can either read it, once you've got a value to push in, you can then press program. That's done and dusted. Now, the black one, this has got CV programming on it as well. But it just doesn't write as well all the time. But it's really good for, it doesn't write addresses well all the time, but it's really good for writing CVs. So if you've got a sound decoder, and your CV value is to adjust the sound, the switches between 161 and say 188 or whichever one might be. You go to CV programming, choose the third tab across. So that says Loco program track, Loco POM, which is program on main, and manual. I'm going to go to manual. There is a program address function there, so I can read from there. And you're going to start jumping. Most of the time it'll write really well, but just sometimes it won't. Sometimes if my track's a little bit dirty, I might just put my finger down on it. And Hornby trains particularly, they jump like crazy, so it's not unusual for the Loco chip to lose communication with the program, or the DR5000, just because it jumps so much that it actually misses an instruction. So if I'm gonna, I'll show you if I see if I can get this to default. So I'll call it 4449, and I'm gonna hit set. Let's see if it'll write 4449 for me. That's 4513. So exactly the point. It didn't do it. that's okay. I can go over here, go to the other app, go to programming, program loco address, give it the address 4769 and hit program. Lovely. The good thing about still having this app, even though you might think that, well, it's not working very well, is that on that third tab over, go to program track. This is where you can program CVs off here. But if you go through and have a look at the CV4, for example, it gives you a description of what CV4 does. That is for the majority of CVs that are NMRA compliant. So, like, I think it's top speed. Yeah, there was a top speed on an Athern Sound N-Scale Loco. The top speed, I couldn't adjust it. If I wanted anything else, I had to go in and make a complex speed curve, which once you learn how to set CVs, you read your manual slowly and carefully. It should work. If not, you just give me a call. Be happy to sort it out with you. It's complicated, but I'll be happy to sort it out with you. So the great thing about this one is if you're setting, say, the sound values from 161 up, you can set in a value of 2 there, hit set, and then just tap up. Instead of going 162, you can just add the plus, and it'll add another number to that 163. Now becomes 164, 165, value set, 166, enter your value, hit set, go to 167, enter your value, and hit set. So very quickly to very quick to write CVs with that. But it's I don't know whether it's just me or whether it's the coder. That's a Bachmann decoder. It's worked before with NCE, DCC Concepts, Hornby, BLI decoders I've got here. It works really well, but just in case I ever have an issue, I'll flick back to the other app over here. Yeah, this one here, and then I'll just write the address to that. It just does it every time, no problem at all. Thank you very much for joining me on this video. Appreciate you watching. Any likes or comments that I get really help this channel out, so please hit it, even if you're right. G'day, how you doing, show us your dog. I'll be really happy with that. And I'll just show you one cool feature of this other app. Before, you could only export a layout and send your whole roster to someone else, which would then be, so you go into your roster and you then export it, so you still can send up your whole entire roster to a visitor who comes over to run trains with you. But now with this addition, you can actually just select one train, because you only want visitors to run one. You can export it just the one, and it will go over to the layout that they have open. I can't shift this train to another layout inside here, which is a nuisance. But if I had another device, I could then export this over to another device, jump out of this layout, go into another layout that I have, and then send it from that one back to there. Very cool. And another little thing is this. This is a vehicle screen where all your roster is. Go into here. We've got data. That's functions where you fix all those. You can slide those around too if you like. And your traction setting. If you hit that there, when you make up a consist, that will automatically reverse that, and it's app controlled, so you're not making any changes to CV29. Just when it's running a consist, it'll be reversed, which is pretty cool. I do like that. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.